I'm with Gidon Ariel from Root Source. Now, Gidon, what is Root Source?
Root Source, that's root-source.com, is a new initiative on the internet that is a platform for Israeli Jews to teach Christians worldwide about the Jewish roots of their heritage.
And of course, the Bible is a Jewish book, isn't it?
I would say so. And I'll tell you, the way that this all started is that I've been involved with pro-Israel Christians for over a decade. And every time I get a chance to talk to a friend, or maybe on the radio, or a visiting tourist group, then I find how amazing it is to talk with them, that they ask me questions, and I'm happy to share about the Jewish tradition, the Jewish life that I am so blessed to live, and in Israel as well. So I came up with this idea, why don't I just teach this on the internet? So one day I was actually talking to a group, some of your listeners may know Christine Darg, who brings Christian groups to Israel from time to time. We were there on the walls of Jerusalem, and I told them I'm coming up with an idea to create such a platform where Christians will be able to learn about the Jewish roots, the Hebrew roots of their religion from an authentic Jew directly, sort of like a Christian yeshiva. And people just gasped because they said, this is just what we've been waiting for. And in fact, one of the gentlemen who was on that tour, his name is Bob Odell, and he came up to me and said, I'd really like to help you out with this. And since that day, we've been partners. So what we have here is a partnership that a Christian and a Jew together have created something brand new that Christians and Jews can talk about their common heritage and their common future together on the internet.
And why is it so important to establish this now?
I think that we are living in extremely historical times. I think that we are coming close to the end of times, and I think that the relationship that Christians and Jews have had throughout the 2,000 or so years that they could have had such a relationship since the Christians came into being has barely seen a positive day of such a relationship. And it seems to me that coming close towards the end of these days, to have Jews and Christians coming together and saying, we don't want to fight, we want to find what we have in common. And we have a lot of things in common, and we have a lot of challenges that we have. We have to establish those relationships. So based on the things that we have in common, we are establishing these relationships between Christians and Jews in order to face the challenges that God is giving us today.
And what is special about Root Source?
Really, that's what's so special about it. What we've got here is authentic Orthodox Jews living in Israel, English speakers, who in generations, in decades past, would think, Christians? What does that have to do with me? But we're seeing more and more Christians reaching out the hand of friendship to Jews, and now, little by little, more and more Jews are accepting that hand in friendship. So what you have here is about a dozen teachers at this point teaching Christians over the internet, where just a short while ago they wouldn't have dreamed of doing such a thing. And I do believe that, as the verse in Isaiah says, for out of Zion shall come Torah and the word of God from Jerusalem, we are actually fulfilling this prophecy. And it takes two to tango. So it's amazing that this small amount of Jews at this point is reaching out to hundreds and hundreds and thousands and tens of thousands of Christians all over the world who feel called and pulled to participate in such a venture.
And what courses do you have to offer?
We basically came up with the kinds of things that we like to teach, that we love and like to teach, and hope that there would be Christians who would be willing to learn that kind of stuff. So I'm, for example, teaching a course in prayer. I have one of our friends is teaching a course about the Jewish temple, another about Jewish history in general, another Pirkei Avot, the chapters of the Fathers, the Jewish guidebook for proper and ethical living, a book about, a course about biblical Hebrew, a course about the book of Proverbs and women in the Bible. Basically anything that Christians want to learn and that we Jews want to teach, it's fair play for Root Source.
Why do you think the relationship between Jews and Christians is so good?
I'm glad that you're such an optimist. The fact is, unfortunately, that the relationship between Christians and Jews is not so good. And as I've hinted to before in this interview, it's because of the tragic relationship that the Jews and Christians have had throughout history. But today, I think that God is bringing us closer together. First of all, we've got a bunch of common enemies, spreading from radical Islam all the way to radical secularism. As a Jewish educator of children in the past, I would say, I managed to get 10 kids or 15 kids. And across the street, my Christian colleague would also try to get some kids to come to his activities. And so we saw that our real enemy is not the person of a different religion across the street, but is that 85% or 95% of potential students that don't have any religion at all. And we are here in order to bring people closer to the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob.
And what's your prayer for Jewish-Christian relations?
I'll have to tell you the truth. We started marketing root-source.com about 2 months ago. In our beta system, we had about 200 people on our free email list. And our marketer said, listen, I think that I can get you about 2,000 people in 1 month onto that list. So, growth of 10 times, that's pretty exciting. Well, we started out that marketing campaign, and that marketer came up to us that night and said, listen, I've got good news and bad news. The bad news is that it looks like you're going to have to be paying a little bit more for your marketing plan. The good news is that in one day you've already surpassed 2,000 new signups for your email list. In that month we signed up over 35,000 people. There's such a thirst for this, and I really hope that your listeners will consider going to root-source.com. We've got a free month trial going on, especially now. So you've got nothing to lose. Go in and give it a try.
Do you think it's really important to understand our Jewish roots from the Bible as Christians?
This is really a question that every Christian has to ask themselves. If for thousands of years this has not been going on, so maybe there was something to it. But I certainly, as a person who is not a tremendous scholar in the New Testament, but has read through the New Testament, and it seems to me that 80% of the New Testament is the Old Testament. So it just is so enriching to learn this kind of stuff, and the refreshing relationship that we're building. We recognize that there are differences in us. We recognize that God has plans for all of us, but those are God's plans. What's special about this is that we are relating to each other on a common basis of mutual respect. And that is first and foremost the most important thing that people have to learn and have to put down as fundamental when they are coming to learn such a thing. And thank God we've got thousands of people who are giving us positive, unsolicited feedback exactly in that direction.
And remind us of the website again for people who'd like to know more about what you're doing.
I am very happy to point people towards www.root, that's ROOT, -source, that's SOURCE.com, rootsource.com. My name is Gidon, and you can email me also, Gidon, that's Gidon, 5 letters, at rootsource.com, root-source.com.
Okay, Gidon, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Looking forward to fielding some of your questions of your listeners.